660 AM. The Answer.
More of Ladies Can We Talk with Debbie Georgatos, right here on 660 AM. The Answer.
And welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk, and thank you again so very much for tuning in. This is Debbie Georgatos and Mari Sullivan, Lori Medina, and we are talking this segment with Senator Don Huffines. Hello, sir.
Hey, hello, good morning.
So glad you could call in today. And, you are my state senator. It's SD 16, so Don Huffines represents our district. And, this was your first term in the Texas State Senate, this most recently completed legislative session. So what I want to hear from you, and I have had others, but as a conservative, I want to hear, if you can, tell us kind of a quick, what were the highlights and lowlights of this last session? And then I want to turn after that to talking about what you hope to get rolling for the next session.
Great, Debbie. Sure, I'd be happy to go over that. I know you've heard some of it before, but it was a great session. I mean, it really was. We had great conservative leaders, new leadership down there in Austin, across the board, as you know, new governor, new lieutenant governor, 8 new freshman Republican in the Senate. That really is unprecedented, and we got to know each other quite well. We're all philosophically aligned essentially, and we just had a great session, and it was the most conservative Senate I think we've had if maybe ever in Texas. So we got a lot of good stuff done. It was very exciting.
So what is your thought? One issue, I followed a lot of issues, and I know a lot of our listeners are big, we follow things closely, but one disappointment, in my view, had to do with school choice. And I don't know what you thought about what did come out and what should have come out. What do you think about that?
Well, school choice is huge for me. I'm a big proponent of school choice. I think competition improves everything. It improves the quality, and it lowers the price of everything it touches, and schools are no different. And we have, unfortunately, for hundreds of thousands, we have kiddos trapped in the public school system, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work for them, and they need options, and we need to empower the parents and empower those students to do what's best for them.
We sure do. Also, there was when you talk about a great session, I know there were many conservative things that got through, and people were especially excited. I think the Texas State Senate was able to be more conservative consistently than the House was. So what would you name as the top, or the accomplishments of the Senate you were most excited about?
Well, we did a great job down there, and with Dan Patrick leading us. And I think some of the highlights really are, you got to look at the Second Amendment stuff, restoring our Second Amendment liberties. And we haven't really, the legislature has not handled that for about 20 years. And that was definitely the highlights, getting open carry done, getting campus carry done, and getting signed by the governor. Like I said, that hasn't been done in 20 years. We also got the tax cuts done. That was huge, and the Senate was the leader in all the conservative legislation that happened. And we cut taxes, and we also were the leader on on driving a great budget done. Again, Jay Nelson did a great job on that, Senator Nelson, and it was the best budget the state's come up with in many, many years. It was only a 3.8% increase, which was below population growth and inflation. Also, we tackled my pet project and pet priorities this session, which is transportation.
Okay, so, actually, I will tell you, I know there are a lot of conservative activists very much focused on transportation. What is the basic, I know we talk a lot about toll roads. That was one of the things that conservatives are constantly talking about. But can you give an overarching, what is it the agenda the conservatives had versus what you would say the less conservative folks wanted in transportation?
Well, that's a good question, Debbie. I would say that the conservatives, and really it's almost everyone now in the legislature, I think the members have spoken that we just don't want any more toll roads. We think it's a bad way to finance roads, and it's really a double tax on everyone, and it costs a lot more to build toll roads. And so we were focused down there to get more money into TxDOT without using it for toll roads, and that's what Proposition 7 is going to be on the ballot here in November, and I'm encouraging everyone to vote for Prop 7. And that's going to get about $3 billion more annually into TxDOT starting in about 2019, 2020. And it's unfortunately it's good news and bad news on that. The good news is we're going to have $3 billion more when everybody votes for it, and for the highways. The bad news is it's not half the amount of money we need. So that's one of the things we're going to go back down there in the legislature and work on in the next session is to get more money into TxDOT so we don't have to keep building toll roads.
Hey, Don, this is Lori. From an outsider or a voter perspective, watching the Texas legislature this last session, it really seemed like that the Texas Senate, that there was a fantastic infusion of conservative leadership, of ideas and men and women that were there ready to fight for Texas. And it seemed like that there were some really fantastic conservative bills that came out of the Senate, but then they would just go land on Joe Straus's desk and just die a slow death. Is that kind of an accurate representation? I mean, that's what it looked like to us. How would you characterize, the slowdown of the great bills that came out of the Senate, went over to the House?
Well, that is what happened on a lot of good bills, no question about it. And that's just part of the process that we have down there. And then it has to get out of both chambers. And we were clearing a lot of good stuff out of the Senate. And unfortunately, the House didn't see fit to take up those issues before their calendar and committee and let a lot of those issues expire and die.
So we were just speaking our previous segment, so Senator Huffines, we had on State Representative Jonathan Sickland, and he was talking about his efforts between sessions to go around and really help galvanize conservatives to potentially challenge incumbent Republicans who, or just maybe open seats, or maybe even ones held by Democrats, but try to get more conservatives in the State House. So maybe over time that gets changed. But I want to switch to forward-looking. So we have a year and a half before the next session starts. What are your top priorities that you hope in the next Texas legislature are on the agenda? Like, what are your top things you hope we can do? And are you working on those between sessions? Well, we definitely are, Debbie. I certainly am. And we're going to continue to work on border security. There's nothing more important than securing our border. We did a good job on that this session, I feel like. We got about $800 million funded in for border security, but there's more we can do. We're going to continue to work on that. I actually met with Steve McCraw, Director of Department of Public Safety, last week on this very issue. So we're coming up with some legislative priorities on that to secure the border. School choice. That was probably the biggest disappointment, I think, this last session was just the amount of pushback we got from our own party, from Republicans, in not supporting school choice and revamping our public education system, not getting rid of Robin Hood, the funding mechanisms for public schools. Everyone in the legislature is committed to having great public schools, and school choice is a key tool and a key component of that. So I'm going to work on that in the interim, and we've got to. One thing that I am a firm believer in that I want to work on is term limits. We didn't get a lot of movement on that last session, but I'm more optimistic and confident we can move that some of that term limit legislation next session. And I'm for term limits for everyone, every elected office holders in the state of Texas. Wow,
so that would be fantastic.
That'd be popular.
Well, one would think.
Well, not with you guys, but with us it is.
Pardon me?
Not with the elected guys, it's not popular, but for us voters, it's certainly popular.
It certainly is, and so maybe we can get that done. And I'm going to break it up into several bills next session, so it's not so comprehensive, and see if we can get at least one of them done. And of course, I'm still going to continue to work to phase out the margin tax. Was very consistent that that's a bad tax, and it's a priority for the Republican Party. And we're blessed with the money and the funds to make that happen over a period of time. We can phase it out completely. We knocked 25% off this year, and we're going to continue to work on that because it's a job-killing tax, and we need nothing more important than having a good job and more money for highways. So those are some of the main issues we're going to work on.
I love hearing about all that. I think that to people around the country, it sounds so strange that Texas has 6 months, or it's even a little less than 6 months, of a legislative session once every other year. I mean, Texans just proudly tell everyone that, but I think to other people, they look at Texas, they think, how can you run the place? But I love it because we are a geographically large state. We have large population. We have all sorts of, challenges with border, like you mentioned, border security. We have tons of issues facing Texas, and yet we managed to do that. I love the spirit of Texas that kind of suggests that we have, once every other year is just about enough. We know what, we're getting to the end of our segment here. We're speaking with Texas State Senator Don Huffines, SD 16. He's my state senator. I think he's not you guys, but anyway.
Lucky.
Yeah, I know.
Bragging.
I know. Show off. So we appreciate your hard work. And actually, do you have town halls or other events coming up you want to tell our listeners about?
We do. I have, if they could go to my website, donhuffines.com, and take a look. I've got town halls scheduled. I probably have 4 or 5 more scheduled in the next 60 to 90 days, and we've got some great events coming up for people to participate in. And I love to visit with the voters because I know that I'm employed by them, and they are my boss, and I'm here to listen and work for them. And for me, I believe in liberty, and I believe in freedom. And I believe in personal responsibility, and that's how I govern.
Excellent.
Excellent is exactly right. Well, this is Debbie Georgatos and Lori Medina, Mari Sullivan. We're up against our next break. Senator Don Huffines, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, ladies. I really enjoy it.
Excellent.
Thank you, Senator
Thank
Huffines.
Okay, so we're going to zip off to our break, and we have one more little segment.